My name is Jessica Ames, and I am the Communications and Outreach Manager here at the Tata-Cornell Institute, and I'm going to be today's timekeeper and also Master of Ceremonies, or MC. So again, thank you all for coming, and today we're here to mark the 5th anniversary of the Tata-Cornell Institute. And to get us started, we are very pleased that the Executive Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences could join us. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Max Pfeffer.
Thank you, Jessica. So nice to see you all here this afternoon. Is this thing working in the back? Can you hear? Okay, great, thank you. So nice to see you all this afternoon. It's kind of a cold day, so I'm bringing you warm greetings from Dean Catherine Boer and the whole College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. We're so happy to be here to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the Tata-Cornell initiative. And and I'm just amazed that it's 5 years already, probably. I can't believe it. So we're here to celebrate various things that the Institute is doing, providing high quality educational opportunities for students, engaging in impactful and policy relevant research, and then also having an impact on real-world problem solving. And so this is all something that we really value here at Cornell and at the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. And the only way that this is made possible is by the team that does all of this. And so we want to also say some congratulations to everyone. As you all know, Prabhu Bengali is the founding director of the Institute. He's really brought this together in some wonderful ways. Matthew Abraham is working right at his side. Jessica Ames is doing a great job in supporting all of this. Mary Catherine French and Brenda Jackson, those guys in the back, they're making sure that everything runs smoothly. And they're supporting a whole team of postdoctoral scholars. I counted up 8 postdoctoral scholars, about 19 graduate students, PhD students that are involved right now. It's wonderful. And now also we have the Tata Global Fellows program. And so bringing undergraduate students into all of this is just really wonderful. And I think the team should be congratulated for all these efforts. Wanted to just reflect on where we're at right now after 5 years. This whole initiative started with a very generous endowment that was provided by the Tata Education and Development Trust. And it was really under the vision of Mr. Ratan Tata, who is a Cornell alumni and also a member of the Board of Trustees here, that this came to fruition. And since we have had that endowment, the TCI has gone on to leverage those resources to bring in even more money from the Gates Foundation, and has had a very generous grant of $13 million to work on very policy-relevant applied research in India. And I always get TARINA mixed up, so I have to look at it. Technical Assistance and Research for Indian Nutrition and Agriculture, TARINA. This is very significant because it's a type of translational research that brings together a variety of partners in India, and it's the kind of the essence of the kinds of things that we like to do here. It's an example of knowledge with public purpose. That is, creating knowledge and disseminating it in a way that has real impact on people's lives, that it improves the quality of people's lives. And then maybe most important for all the students here is that it creates high quality educational opportunities. What could be more important than that? After all, we're an educational institution. One of the things that TCI is doing that I think is so important and so impactful is providing really quality research, field research opportunities, especially for graduate students, but also for undergraduates. These types of opportunities can't be underestimated in how important they are. Getting field experience, doing research that's very rigorous and high quality, and also, not only that, but research that's on real-world problems, creating solutions for real-world problems that improve people's lives in some tangible way. All of that is something that we think is really important at Cornell. So I think that one of the things that I'm really excited about is not only supporting PhD research, but moving into undergraduate research experiences. Cornell has been working on internationalizing student experiences, as you may know, but also providing more field, on-the-ground experiences for students, to give them kind of real-world experience and tangible kind of concrete vision of things that they can do. And in this way, deepening the educational experience. And Tata Global Fellows is a way that's doing that right now. And so we're really happy about all of that. So there's been a lot of accomplishments in 5 years. We think there's going to be a lot more accomplishments in the next 5 years and beyond. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from everyone this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Max. This was a great beginning. Most of you don't know that Max was the chairman of the selection committee that selected me. And so that's good to, right. And I should say it was a good selection, right? And it seems like it was only yesterday that we arrived in Cornell. My wife, Kumari, is sitting back there. And when we came in, we didn't know what to expect, but it's been wonderful to, in the last 5 years, building this program up and bringing it to the stage where we are today. And I'm really looking forward to the next 5 years to see how we can move forward. I think just thinking about where we want to be 5 years from now, we want to certainly establish a hardcore program in India that will continue to do this high-level research that also translates into real-life solutions and also real-life policy advice within the country. But I also want to project TCI as a model that can be used outside of India. If we can look at opportunities where we can use the similar type of model for other parts of South Asia, possibly looking beyond South Asia, that'll be something exciting to think about. I'm not sure that one person or one institute can do it, but it's certainly a model that we can all look at moving forward. Max talked about the great staff we have here in Ithaca. And without the work of the group here in Ithaca, we just won't be able to do it. The staff, Mary Catherine, who was our very first employee of this group, and then since then we've expanded the staff, and the latest person to join our group is Brenda, who's come in as a program administrator. And because of the complexity of the program, because of how many different things are moving at the same time, Matthew Abraham took on the role of the assistant director of the program starting this year. But I want to emphasize that a lot of the work that we do happens in India. And so we have a whole team of people in India that are working on this program 24 hours a day. Bhaskar Mitra, the associate director of the program based in Mumbai, he's always on call. And I get emails from Bhaskar at 11 at night, and then again from 6 in the morning, and goes on till midnight his time. So I don't know when he gets time to sleep, because he's always responding to messages, always sending information. And our students are constantly calling him whenever they're in trouble in India, which happens quite often. And he's out there trying to support them and be as welcoming as possible, and trying to get them through all kinds of issues within the country. We also, because of the Gates Foundation grant, have opened an office in Delhi about 2 years ago. And today we have a staff of 6 people based in Delhi. And that staff has been pretty much working on the Gates Foundation grant that Max mentioned. But one thing our office in Delhi has also done is it's given us enormous visibility with the policymaking community in India. And because of our Delhi office, we've been able to get invited to several high-level policy discussions and fora, etc. And we're able to then slowly introduce policy messages back into India on how do you effectively look at malnutrition, how do you look at food systems, what are the ways in which we could look at policy reforms, etc. And that's been a wonderful opportunity for us to translate some of the research learnings that we're getting on the field and bringing that back to the policy community. And that's an area I think we'll continue to be doing a lot more work on over the next 5 years. Also, with our Gates Foundation grant, we've been able to do a lot more collaborative work in India. So we've been able to bring in NGO partners, academic partners, etc. And we're now working in 6 states in India. We started with 1, and we're now in 6 states. We're working in 30 different villages, and we're reaching, sorry, we're not working in 30 different villages. We're working in a total of, I wrote this down somewhere, and I seem to, 195 villages, not 30. That's a big difference. 195 villages. And we're reaching 30,000 households today. So that's quite an enormous stretch of work that we're doing across the country. And with our collaborators in India, we can potentially scale this up quite significantly over time. And one of the advantages of having strong collaborators in India is we also are able to provide on-the-ground training and capacity building to our partners in India. And some of them coming here on visiting fellowships, etc., and also our staff and professors from here, like Mark Constas and Rebecca Nelson, going to India and working with our collaborators, have been able to provide capacity building on the ground in very crucial areas such as mycotoxin research, M&E work, etc. And that's something I'd like to keep building on. I'd like to have a lot more interaction between Cornell faculty and our partners in India, and I'd like to see how we can build this up into the future. We've talked about the students. A total of 29 students have either gone through or going through this program. We've already graduated around 6 people that have gone through the program, and there's a group that's going through now. And bachelor's students is one area we've not been working on, although the Tata Global Fellows is something that I'm very excited about. But we've taken on master's degree students. And of course, the large share of our work is focused on PhD students. Starting this year, we've been experimenting with an MS PhD program, and we'll try to see whether we can expand on that some more. Thinking about a few more students coming in who maybe not adequately prepared to get into a PhD program, but could step in through an MS PhD. And that's something we'll keep working on, and we look forward to doing more of that. But an area we don't talk about a lot is our postdoctoral fellows and the research associate program. We've got around 9 people who have either gone through or are going through our postdoc and research associate program. And what I like about the postdoc and research associate program is that they don't have to do coursework, and they don't have to stick to a research, schedule of exams, etc. So we can focus them on a particular research problem and say, go for it. Next 2 years, this is a problem you're working on, and get as much research output and publications as you can from that. And the experience has been tremendous. So in terms of publications, we've now, as of today, we've got, in the last 5 years and up to today, 24 journal articles that are out in print. Journal articles and book chapters, all of these going through a peer review process. And just today, we got 3 more papers that have gone into publication. And we've got another 3 that are in, what do you call it, R&R, review and resubmit stage. So by the end of this academic year, if nothing else, we'll have a minimum of 30 publications that have come out as papers and book chapters. That's 5 per year. Not bad for a small program. But I think as we grow, we should be getting much more than 5 per year. In addition to that, we put out 2 books. And a 3rd book on food systems for a rising India is going to press next week. And it's going to be published by Palgrave Press. And sometime in the spring, we should be having a nice book party around that book. And what I like about the book that's going to press next week is it's been written jointly with our research associates and our postdoctoral fellows. And so that's a nice way in which we can build collaboration right here within our own group and put these products forward. So we're really excited about the program. And what I like most about the program is that when we started this program, people were cautioning me. They were saying, it's very difficult to get rigorous quantitative research that meets Ivy League PhD standards when you send people out to the field. Well, we've proven them wrong, because all of the people who went through our program have spent a year in the field, or sometimes more than a year in the field, doing intense field work. But then they've been able to show that you can marry that intense field work with the rigor that's needed to meet the academic requirements of a PhD program at Cornell. That's what excites me the most. And the fact that you can apply this rigor to real-world problems. And you can come up with solutions and policy solutions that can then make big differences to people's lives. That's what allows me to go to sleep peacefully every night. And I'm really excited that we can continue doing this work over the future. Thank you very much, and welcome to this celebration.
Being that it's our 5th year anniversary, we have been doing a series of special activities and events. And one of our big goals, too, is to try to help tell our story better or more broadly. And so we had an exhibit that was up for 5 months at the Mann Library to help spread the word more broadly across campus about some of the field projects and the sort of research that our students are doing, but also to highlight who this research is designed to serve. And given that opportunity of pause and reflection, what we're going to show you next is a video that was created where you'll hear from the scholars and students who've been involved in our program for a long time, and they'll tell you in their own words what their involvement in the Tata-Cornell Institute has meant to them, and also you'll learn more and see more about who we have gotten to know through our work in India. So we hope that you will enjoy our video.
The main mission of the Tata-Cornell Institute is to address the persistent and the intractable problem of malnutrition in India. I think the really unique part of the Tata-Cornell program is that we can bring the high-level scientific expertise of Cornell University to address real-life problems.
It's exciting to be a part of a community of people that have such a varied interest in multiple different research projects. And I feel like for myself to have been a part of TCI over these last 5 years, I've been exposed to a lot of other topics of research involving India and research in developing countries that I definitely wouldn't have been exposed to if I had been in my animal science silo of looking at only livestock.
I get to interact with a lot of different people outside of nutrition, including economists, food scientists, in agriculture, all of that. That really broadens my own research and gives me perspective on how my work fits into the larger research agenda.
The rural life is very interlinked with nature. We are also going to the field. We are also trying to make some kind of difference in the field. Getting an opportunity for spending 18 months in the field was great. I was able to construct and conduct my own field survey. It also taught me a lot about management issues.
I grew up in the cities, so I had never seen poverty firsthand, and being part of this immersive experience where you go to the field and live there for an extended period of time, spend a lot of time with these villagers, talk to them, really understand and internalize their problems is very different from reading about them.
So what I like about our project and the Tata-Cornell initiative in general is connecting the science with real-world problems and trying to find solutions to agriculture and nutrition that are difficult to solve. These are complex issues. So our contribution on soil health is just one component of it. But the Tata-Cornell Institute has a much broader perspective, and that's why we like to be part of it.
When you work at TCI, you have actually the chance to influence policy around you. Where we hope to be setting the stage to broadening the discussion on food systems and to answer the question, how can we better cater to this rising demand? How can we improve the health and well-being of people when climate change is going to affect the food that we eat?
It's really exciting for us how much this program has grown. We've been working across 6 states in India and doing fairly intense research looking at the relationship between agriculture, poverty and nutrition. In 5 years, we've shown that good research can lead to better solutions for addressing the problem of micronutrient malnutrition in India. I'm absolutely proud of the work that we're doing at the Tata-Cornell Institute. It's been a tremendous experience, and I hope we'll continue with this high-level impact work into the future.
I want to thank the team, the production team in the room also for their hard work on putting that video together. So thank you very much to the Dyson Media Innovation Group for your collaboration. Okay, so next we're going to dive into the fun part and really get into the nitty-gritty about our research and also the experiences that our students have had through their internships, and then we'll learn more about our partnership and the consortium that we have with our Tarina partners in in our Delhi office, excuse me. So first off, we are going to focus on our interdisciplinary research using a food systems approach. We are a multidisciplinary research team, and today you are going to be hearing from someone who's getting their PhD in applied economics, plant pathology, international nutrition, and those are just some of the programs that our PhDs are working on. So to get us started, we're going to hear from Vidya Vemereddy, who is working on her PhD in applied economics and has been with our program for 5 years? 5 years. So, okay, there's that thing. And I think the clicker should work now, so just do this. Okay, let me move.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vidya Vemereddy. I'm a TCI scholar as well as the fifth-year PhD student at the Applied Economics program at the Dyson School. And I just wanted to say that I've been associated with this program for, this is my over 4 years now. I'm in my fifth year. And it's been absolute pleasure and for the support that I received. And I just want to thank TCI for that, for me to be able to do all this research and also to communicate it to you all. And so I'm going to delve into my presentation. So I'll be talking about role of women's time in agriculture nutrition linkages, and this is evidence from my fieldwork. So from the past 2 years, I was in eastern part of Maharashtra, the state of Maharashtra in India, and this was a particular district called Chandrapur. And I was working here and I did extensive data collection for about 2 years. And my research questions were focusing on how do women spend time in agriculture across various seasons, and how does that imply in terms of trade-offs they face in time spent for nutrition activities such as cooking and such as like cleaning and childcare. So there are two basic questions. What are the implications of these time uses? And the other is, how do these time constraints that women face affect their nutrition? So the motivation for my research came from, first of all, formative research. When I went first as part of my first year, I understood that women face immense work burdens. They do not only work in agriculture, and they're part of the agricultural systems through and through different seasons, but they also are solely responsible for household activities due to gender norms in societies such as South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. And this increasing work burdens is a growing concern in the agriculture and nutrition community because there is a concern that this may impact nutrition negatively. So I wanted to answer this and unpack this link of how agricultural time use impacts nutrition and what is the women's contribution in this sense. So to do that, I chose Chandrapur because it has an interesting combination of cropping patterns in 3 different blocks, which is Korpana, Mul, and Gonpipri. And these 3 blocks have, one block is purely cotton, the other is paddy, and then one is a mixed region, which gives me sort of the variation that is required to study time use patterns of women in agriculture. And my total sample was about 960 households, and I did multiple surveys over the period of 2 years. One was to collect household information on various things such as agricultural input use, income, health and sanitation, and their height and weight measures. And I did, to try to unpack this time use and effects of time use on nutrition, I had to first document the recipes that people are eating in that region. And I collated about 500 recipes and also standardized those to get precise nutrient information and time spent to cook those recipes as well. And one of the most important part of the survey is the time use in the diet, where each household was followed about, for 10 times across the year, where we asked them what did they eat and how did they spend their time. So using these variables to just give you a sense of how women spend their time, so this graph shows you the activities that women are doing every month. This is the average time spent by each woman per day. So we see that the lowest part of the bar graphs are the time spent in agriculture. So you can see that in peak seasons, women spend approximately 350 minutes in agriculture, and they also spend time in other activities such as cooking and domestic work. So to reiterate, I've been working on this project for a while now. So some of the findings from my work is, yes, women spend a lot of time in agriculture, and they also spend a lot of time in household activities. It just reiterates my study. And then during peak seasons, they face immense trade-offs because women have to work longer hours on agriculture, which means they have lesser time for nutrition-enhancing activities such as cooking and childcare. So these trade-offs, then I went and my findings suggest that women working longer hours in agriculture are associated with lower intakes of calories, proteins, fats, iron, zinc, vitamin A, and a lot more nutrients, but I've just restricted this thing for this. So this is an interesting puzzle, and my findings are suggesting this. In terms of implication, this means a lot. First of all, a lot of the debate has focused on incomes, but it's also important to look at time, and particularly women's time, as a part of the agriculture nutrition linkages. The other thing is that these time constraints need to be kept in mind when agriculture interventions are being designed in the policy frameworks. And the future course of the research will also focus on how to come up with labor-saving technologies to reduce these work burdens that women face, and also enhance the decision-making capacities to be able to ensure better nutrition for themselves and their families. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Ithacans, and greeting from the field in Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. My name is Anthony, and I'm a fourth-year PhD student in the field of plant pathology and plant microbiology. And today I'm going to give you a brief update about the work I'm doing in the field to address food safety concerns like mycotoxin contamination in food. My project is geared toward empowering smallholder farmers to address issues regarding food safety that are important to them, but that they otherwise wouldn't have the resources or capacity to address. In communities like the ones I work in, government schemes and programs are often ineffective and ill-equipped to address the local population's concerns in a locally specific manner. And that's why participatory research in these types of communities can be a powerful tool for affecting change at the grassroots. I really see participatory research as a powerful catalyst of agricultural development that can connect smallholder farmers with tangible solutions to the problems that they're facing. And so I strive in my work to acknowledge the value of farmers' input, both individually and collectively. My dissertation research specifically aims to develop a model for community engagement around food safety issues in the storage environment. Particularly, I'm interested in the issue of mycotoxins, which are fungal toxins that are deposited in food when the storage conditions are poor, and that can result in a range of health and nutrition impacts, both for humans and for livestock animals. And my approach engages farmers in every stage of the research process, from problem recognition to hypothesis development to experimental design and onward through the process of implementation and innovation. And in effect, farmers take on roles equal to mine in the scientific process. I contribute my professional scientific expertise, and they contribute their locally refined knowledge of the context of their food system. And together we can acknowledge the many complexities and intricacies of their village environment, which comes up with solutions that are attractive to them, and not only that, but also effective in combating the issues that they face. In the present stage of my research, I'm in the process of building a foundation for what we call a farmer research network. And what I say by this is, sort of a system where the successes of one farmer can be amplified in their village communities, resulting in success of their neighbors. And furthermore, where the success of one community can be further amplified across a network of information that connects several villages with shared geography and shared food safety concerns. And this, in a way, links farmers with similar challenges to similarly effective opportunities. And the farmer research network approach, I think, is a really powerful way to engage farmers around their interests, to let them identify their own priorities, and to take concerted steps toward addressing them in a way that is purely from and for the grassroots. So that's about it for my update. I'm looking forward to my return to Ithaca in the fall. See you then.
So again, that's Anthony Wendt, and he's our PhD student in plant pathology and plant microbe biology. One of the things about our program is we often have a good chunk of our team in India. So we appreciate those who are able to make videos and show us the work that we're doing, or in this case, listening to the traffic outside his window. So we're really glad that Anthony could participate today. And later on, we'll be hearing from one of our colleagues speaking to us live from where he's working. But to kind of round out this focus on our research, I would like to invite Catherine Merkel to come up so she can tell us about her extensive fieldwork also in Uttar Pradesh. And we're really excited to hear the latest in this work. Thank you, Katie. Nice orange. Thanks.
So as Jessica mentioned, my name is Catherine Merkel, and I'm a fourth-year PhD student in international nutrition, and I'm also, of course, a TCI scholar. And I'm happy to be here today to share with you the work that I've been doing for the past year in Uttar Pradesh on the orange flesh sweet potato. First, to give some context, I think we often lose sight of the reason why we do these types of projects, and so I just wanted to rehash a little bit about vitamin A deficiency and its urgency to be addressed as part of the international effort to eliminate micronutrient deficiencies. So this graph is showing us the percent of the population of females in Uttar Pradesh who are consuming less than 50% of the recommended dietary allowance. And as you can see, it's high for every single age group of child, and it's extremely high for the most vulnerable populations of pregnant women and lactating women who face much higher needs for vitamin A due to feeding and growing an infant child. Children who are malnourished who have vitamin A deficiency are anywhere from 2 to 8 times more likely to die from that malnutrition than those who are malnourished but don't happen to have vitamin A deficiency. Similarly, infants who are born to mothers who face symptoms of vitamin A deficiency are more likely to die and have a higher risk of death. And the mothers themselves are more likely to die from infections, either due to childbirth or due to regular other diseases, due to vitamin A's importance in maintaining the immune system. And as we can see from the graph, one of the primary reasons for this deficiency is lack of adequacy in the diet. A lot of fresh fruits and vegetables that have vitamin A, such as fresh mango or papaya or green leafy vegetables, are highly seasonal, or they're very expensive, such as animal food products of eggs or red meats. So researchers, nutritionists, agriculturalists are looking for a way to increase the number of crops that farmers have available to them that are rich in vitamin A, and orange sweet potato has come to be one of those crops. And this idea was originally brought into East Africa, where white sweet potato is eaten as a staple crop nearly every day, and so replacing the white variety with an orange variety that's rich in beta-carotene, which is then converted to vitamin A, is a highly effective solution to addressing vitamin A deficiency. However, in North India, where our research is being done and vitamin A deficiency is very high, there's a low white sweet potato consumption. But there are orange sweet potato varieties that are excellent for the region. Farmers have a thirst for new varieties and innovation, and they see the need to diversify their crop portfolios, especially as their cereal yields are stagnating from Green Revolution efficiencies. And OFSP is also incredibly easy to grow and share between farmers. Now, in East Africa, it was found that nutritional knowledge was not highly mediating in whether or not a farmer chose to adopt orange sweet potato. However, the context of India is different. So we need to ask, will orange sweet potato be an effective solution to vitamin A deficiency in India? And given this difference in diets and this difference in cultural context, will that nutrition information be important in mediating whether or not a farmer chooses to adopt orange sweet potato as a crop? So in order to test this out, we have 15 randomly selected villages in the Maharajganj region of Uttar Pradesh, and 5 of those served as our control village and received no interventions. The 10 others were randomly assigned to either receive an intervention that focused on orange sweet potato as a crop and instructed farmers on ways to grow it and how to share it amongst themselves and ways to maintain it. The other 5 villages received the same agricultural intervention, but they also received an additional monthly village-level nutrition training where they learned information such as the importance of vitamin A for infant and young child development and proper diets for mothers when they're pregnant or lactating. And so by testing the difference between these 2 treatments, we can see whether that additional nutrition messaging impacts the uptake of orange sweet potato, both as a crop in the field and also as a new food. And we found, first of all, that as we suspected, diets in Uttar Pradesh, in this region that we were in, were very low in vitamin A. One of the most startling realizations was how infrequently children were consuming vitamin A-rich foods, such as animal source foods and plant source foods of vitamin A across their childhood, as compared to snack foods. So if you look at these red bars, you'll see that they're consuming only once or twice a week are they consuming a vitamin A-rich source of food. However, they're receiving snack foods such as potato chips, such as biscuits, every single day. And mothers report giving their children money to buy these snacks on average of 3.5 times per day. So this is a staggering amount of snacking that these children are doing on unhealthy foods. And so one of our key messages then became for the nutrition component, then became encouraging mothers to switch at least one of these snacks out for a healthy vitamin A-rich snack such as papaya, eggs, or hopefully orange sweet potato. Now, we found that information about orange sweet potato in these villages pretty much, we would say it went viral. So only maybe 50% of each village came to at least one of our events. However, when we looked at our baseline as compared to after the intervention, we found that almost everybody in the village had heard of orange sweet potato by the end of our intervention. So this was purely by word of mouth, that people were learning about orange sweet potato, that they were aware of its existence, and that they were learning about the benefits that it could have for them. Now, when we look at who actually decided to grow orange sweet potato, we see similarly that our intervention was effective in getting people to grow orange sweet potato. So at the start of the first season, we introduced the vines to farmers, and we distributed vines to any farmer who wished to grow them. However, the second season, which you can see by the dark green bar, any increase you see from first season to second season was purely due to farmers sharing it amongst themselves. So we did no new distribution of vines from the first season to the second season. And in both the agriculture-only villages as well as the ag plus the nutrition intervention villages, there was a significant increase in the adoption of orange sweet potato as a crop. Now, I don't want you to pay too much attention to the difference between the ag village and the ag plus nutrition village, because that's due to other factors that we'll get into in the next slide. But what I do want you to pay attention to is the slope of the change. So you can see that the ag and nutrition slope is slightly steeper, meaning that there was a faster adoption, a faster increase in adoption. And that's something that when we complete our baseline survey this coming January, we'll be able to see whether that's a real effect, that maybe the nutrition messaging makes it so that people are more likely to adopt it faster and it spreads in the villages faster. So what makes somebody want to adopt orange sweet potato? So if we look at all of the factors that might cause somebody, that might predict the likelihood of somebody to adopt orange sweet potato as a crop, such as whether or not they have a home garden, how much land they have, their socioeconomic class, et cetera, we find that there is actually no difference when we control for those factors between the treatment 1, the agriculture only, versus the treatment 2, which is the agriculture plus the nutrition. So what we are finding is similar to what was found in East Africa, where perhaps that additional nutrition knowledge isn't necessary to get people to adopt orange sweet potato, that it's simply a good enough crop on its own that people are wanting to try it out and wanting to bring it into their crop rotation, and that's really exciting. However, you are more likely to grow orange sweet potato if, and this is pretty much to be expected, if you have land and if you know about orange sweet potato. So that's a really exciting finding for us because it means that simply knowing about orange sweet potato and having the physical ability to grow it means that you are more likely to adopt orange sweet potato. So looking forward, we know that maybe this nutrition education isn't vital for the adoption of it as a crop, but what about for eating it? Does knowing more about the nutritional value of the orange sweet potato mean that you're more likely to consume it more frequently, that you're more likely to prepare it for your children more often, and that you're more likely to share it and share information about it with your friends and family? We also need to look at how those people who actually did attend our events, how that impacted their likelihood of growing and consuming orange sweet potato. So is it enough to just be in a village where orange sweet potato is being grown, or do you yourself have to actually interact with the promotional materials? And then also we need to know more about what is the actual saturation point. At what point will no new people in a village adopt orange sweet potato and know that they can get it maybe at the market or they can get it from friends or family? And then finally, how important are having friends and family who grow orange sweet potato in your choice to adopt or not? Are you more likely to adopt it if all of your friends are growing it, or do you know that you can get it from them if you need it, and so you're actually less likely to adopt? So all of these answers will give us really important information to looking at how biofortified crops such as orange sweet potato can be promoted in villages in rural India in order to decrease these micronutrient deficiencies that are so deleterious to health. And these are some photos from our first harvest, some very happy farmers, so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Katie, for your great presentation. What's next is we're going to be getting, it's a bit of a debut of a video, but we're very excited to show this because we've had one of our Tata-Cornell scholars, her name's Payal Seth, and she's a PhD candidate at the Dyson School in Applied Economics. Her field location is also in Uttar Pradesh, and the focus of her work has been looking at the linkages between sanitation and nutrition. And there's also this behavior change component to understand how, through communication campaign methodology called community-led total sanitation, whether or not there is an uptick in the utilization of improved sanitation in toilets, as opposed to, maybe building a toilet or receiving a toilet through a program but never using it. So these are some really interesting questions that we are pursuing as an institute, and that research again is led by Payal Seth. But next you're going to, one of our global fellows who we will hear from shortly, her job over the summer was to help us capture the stories of the people who participated and benefited from this program. And so we want to share this video today to just touch base with the fact that these projects and programs really do impact people's lives. And nobody can say that better than the people whose lives are impacted. So we want to make sure that we listen to what they have to say.
In villages where community-led total sanitation, or CLTS, has not intervened, villagers have not found enough motivation to end open defecation. Influenced by social, religious, and cultural resistance to toilet use, these villages do not see the negative health and social implications of OD. Even when given new toilets free of charge, many individuals don't keep them sanitized, would rather use them as storage units, or simply act like they don't exist. Many were hesitant to express on camera the real reasons they do not use the toilets. In more private settings, many shared that they only saw them as beneficial for the elderly, young women, or smaller families, but not necessarily for the community at large. Without behavior change through CLTS, villages in rural India will continue to practice open defecation, perpetuating disease and malnutrition. Meanwhile, in villages where CLTS has been implemented, villagers have gained a different opinion about toilets.
सर शुरू हुआ जीडीएस की तरफ से जीडीएस लोग आए गांव में देखे बुलाए तो उसका मीटिंग हुआ
और इकट्ठे किए एक बागीचे में हम लोग सभी गांव वालों को इकट्ठा किए छोटे बड़े बुजुर्ग महिला सभी को.
The villagers drew a map tracing where all the houses, hand pumps, temples, and other landmarks are located. They also used yellow chalk to show where they went to defecate. In no time, the map was completely covered with yellow chalk. It meant that the entire village was contaminated.
गंदगी एक तरफ खाना मक्खी उड़कर खाना पर गई खाना पर से फिर टट्टी पर गई तो बाल एक निकाले तो पानी में डाले तो पानी दिए पिए के लिए हम लोग को घिन लग गया कि सर हम लोग नहीं पिएंगे पानी इसमें तो गंदगी है.
इससे हम लोग को पता चला कि हम लोग गंदगी ही खाते हैं.
तो भैया तब पहले हम अपन बनवली कच्चा शौचालय उसके बाद हम पूरे गांव का कच्चा शौचालय बनवली कुछ लोग हम लोग कर दिए कुछ साहब लोग कर दिए शौचालय तैयार हो गया.
Through this visual triggering process, the many harms of open defecation, or OD, became clear to the villagers, so much so that many decided to sacrifice their assets in order to construct toilets.
जेके लगे पैसा नहीं रहते जेवर धई के बनवाइला से ईटा गिरवाइला से बनवाइला से मिस्त्री में नहीं मिलला त अपने करल गइले लेबर मनो नहीं मिलला त हमन के कइल गई
ठान ले ली कि बाहर जात के सब देखा था फिर शर्म लगा था.
तो फिर गहना बेचने का ख्याल कैसे आया?
गहना बेचने के
जब कुछ रास्ता नहीं रहल तब वह ख्याल आई जब लैट्रिन बनवावे खातिर पे चली कि इज्जत हमार बच जाए तो फिर गहना एक कबो पैसा रही जाए बाहर जाए नहीं पड़ी.
Rodheshiam's family even tore down their house's wall to give bricks as their 25% contribution for the toilet construction.
सब खेती बाड़ी बोआ जाता तक सड़क पर जाते आली नखे ए नाते हम अपन मकान गिरवा के शौचालय बनवली.
Rodheshiam's wife, Shubhawati, is also glad they tore down their wall for a toilet.
बढ़िया भाई बढ़िया भाई
हाँ
कितना
इतना ही बढ़िया भाई कि मन बाहर भीतर धी पतो के आराम हो गई
आराम हो गया
बहुत हो
समस्या ही डाल के छोटे छोटे बच्चे ना बैठ जाता है बाहर हगा कह देता है वहीं खाना बनता नहीं हगा कह देता है और मैं जो है मक्खी उड़ के खाना पर बैठे ताली बीमारी और पैदा हो जाता है ये बीमारी से हम और परेशान रही हैं और जब से पैखाना बन गई तब से लड़के स्वच्छ हो गई.
Now, entire villages are realizing the benefits of toilets.
कि हम गांव उठा के खोल देते हैं अब सब लोग सब देखते हैं कोई तो हम लोग तो नहीं उठते सब परत रहा है यार मुफिन कोई यकीन नहीं अब ये बन गया अब बन गया तो कोई आके बजाए बाहर से बजाओ जब कर लेंगे तभी तो उठ के धोके आएंगे तभी निकलेंगे इससे पहले निकलेंगे नहीं तो अब तो इज्जत बच गया.
पर एकदम पानी बरसे जब सब एकदम गंदा गंदा हो जाए चलले में एकदम सब बिलखावन लगे बहुत अड़मिंग लगे खाना नहीं पचे हाँ खाना नहीं खाई जाए. हाँ
हम लड़कियों को तो और भी ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम होती थी दिन में तो जा ही नहीं पाते थे और अगर प्रॉब्लम होती भी थी तो घर पे ही रहना पड़ता था. अभी सुबह हाँ पेट दबा के एक टाइम का खाना कम करके
तो चाहे ठेला पावल जा ठेला रहे वो से ठेलिया लिहल जा आना घास उस रहे त नोच के नोच लिहल जा अब एक पकड़ ले कुल भीग जाए.
हां लजात आप बताइए बेटा तो कहाँ जाती हो? शौचालय। वेरी गुड।
जब मैं स्कूल से आती थी तो दौड़कर इसी में जाती थी।
अरे वाह।
बदलाव आयल भैया, मीटिंग भइल, मीटिंग में हगल धरा गई, हमें उन्हीं देख के घिना लग गई, हमारे अंदर एकदम घिना आ गई कि ई तो अच्छा काम नहीं होता। तब वही दिन सोच लेली भैया कि न हम खाब हगल और न गाँव वालन के खियाई। गांव सुरक्षित हो गया, बच्चे उसमें जाते हैं और हम लोग जाते हैं, सुरक्षित साफ, चारों तरफ से साफ साफ दिखाई दे रहा है, शौच कहीं नहीं रहा है बाहर में।
देखो 100 बात मिला की बात है, इस सब की बात यही है, सब अच्छा यही है कि सबकी इज्जत ढक गई अपने अंदर सब। सब की सीधी बात यही है, जो सब बोलेंगे, एक बोलो चाहे 4 बोलो, बात यही है।
खुशी है?
खुशी है। हाँ।
Alrighty. Thank you, Krista. So transitioning to that, that's a perfect setup to hear more about the work that our Tata Global Fellows were involved with over the summer. So I'd like to ask Krista Sumi and Hannah Fuller to please come up so they can share their experiences for 6 weeks in Uttar Pradesh this summer.
Thank you. Should we click this? Okay, great. So my name is Krista Sumi. I'm a senior studying international agriculture and rural development in CALS. And as you just saw, that was my main work for this summer, working based in Ferenda with Pyle Seth, our TCI scholar. And that was the first time I've seen it just to like enjoy it. And any other time I've like been trying to edit it. And it brought back a lot of memories of being able to actually sit with these individuals who feel like they've been so impacted by the research that's been done by TCI. I think especially as an undergrad student, the impact of research can kind of feel distant sometimes, just because we're more worried about classwork and research here on campus. And I am so grateful for the opportunity through CALS Global Fellows and TCI to be able to have this opportunity. Pyle really helped me understand the importance of thoughtful research. So when we think about that these are real people that we are trying to help with what we can contribute, and that they have real issues, and to highlight one of those, even though these toilets are something that are really important for safety and nutrition, there's also the aspect that some women don't like using toilets because they like having that time to go with their female friends out to the field. So there are just different aspects, and you realize that maybe sometimes a solution written on paper isn't always perfect when you try to play it out in a real community. As you could see, my work wasn't necessarily the research aspect, but rather the impacts. So I was able to explore what's not necessarily always captured in research. And that was really helpful to see why we are doing what we're doing, why we dedicate so much time here in Ithaca and across the globe. And it was really neat to be able to see these individuals who are catalysts and leaders in their own communities, that they have the desire for a better future for their families and those who surround them. And I think that that's where the real value comes from in what we are doing, is being able to connect with these people to be able to actually achieve what we have envisioned here. And it was really helpful in my personal and professional development as well. It was the first time in India. I learned a few Hindi words trying to translate. Pyle and I, late at night, would be sitting next to each other. She would translate and I would transcribe. And I think even more professionally, it helped me realize that there are so many different connections when we talk about development. And formally, before the internship, I was really involved in agricultural production, rural development through that. But I was able to see the importance of linking different things like nutrition and sanitation for overall well-being, and that's even carried into my trajectory for professional and educational goals that I have. I've been applying to jobs in the water and sanitation and hygiene sector, which I never would have considered before this internship. And I'm so grateful and also so humbled to be able to work with such a driven and distinguished research institute. And I'm grateful for, sorry, I forgot to ever show the pictures. I got so nervous. So these are just some people that we were interviewing, and this is the team that I was working with through GDS and PILE as well. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to work with these people and also with TCI. And thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Fuller. I'm a senior double majoring in plant science and international agriculture and rural development, minoring in community food systems. So an internship with TCI this summer was a pretty logical next step in my trajectory at Cornell. You just heard from the wonderful Katie Miracle, and so I was working with her all summer. And so my role on her team was collecting informant interviews. So I had the privilege to speak to a number of different farmers. 2 of them are pictured here, with some beautiful OFSP in the middle. And so my role was working with agriculture extension agents and following them through the fields and talking to different farmers about why they choose to adopt OFSP. And so I had the privilege to hear about how they thought that OFSP adoption was affecting their health, their family's health, and kind of starting to answer those deeper questions about behavior change and why behavior change happens. And so we got to hear stories about the role of extension and fun stories about the different activities that Katie's team was doing, so recipe development, and we had harvest festivals and a lot of different things, and got to hear about why they choose to adopt OFSP. Also got to hear about how it just tastes really good, and honestly, they were just jealous of their neighbors who had a really good crop, and so they wanted to grow it too. And so listening to those interviews were really essential, and it's exciting to get to listen to those voices, like Jessica mentioned, of the people that are actually growing and actually affected by the work. And then for me personally, it was simply fun. The 112-degree weather isn't always the most comfortable, but it was really exciting to get to see fieldwork in action. Not to echo too much of what Krista just talked about, but I think that oftentimes in our Cornell classes, we read case studies, we read a lot of papers, but it's hard to understand what things actually look like in the field. And so getting that experience as an undergraduate student is really exciting. I think that a lot of opportunities for postgraduate work involve fieldwork or involve a level of research that is hard to comprehend as an undergraduate student. So that was really exciting to see. And so mostly I'm just really grateful for this awesome team, the GDS team, and the confidence that they gave to me and Krista. I think through Tata and the Global Fellows Program, we had a perfect balance of support while we were in India, but also a lot of independence to develop our own work, ask our own questions. And so the confidence that they had in me and the questions that I was asking was really essential for me moving forward and the work that I hope to do after graduation as I continue to figure that out. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, ladies. We really appreciate you sharing your experiences and what that meant to you. We also just want to reiterate how delighted we are to have this partnership with the CALS Global Fellows Program. This is a relatively new program that CALS has, but it's also intended to be, and the CALS Global Fellows Program is also intended to be one of the flagship programs of professional development and international exchange and hands-on learning that is available to students across the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. So if you are an undergraduate or you know undergraduates, you should really encourage them to apply to the program. It's excellent, and we feel very, very happy to be invited to partner with them. Next, I'd like to turn our attention to one of the first partnerships that the Tata-Cornell Institute established here 5 years ago. I'm sure many of you have heard about the wonderful work that Agua Clara has done in terms of training engineering students in a hands-on way here on campus, but also offering opportunities in Central America to deploy their new technologies that are developed here. And we're very, very pleased that we were able to, through this partnership, expand access to clean water in rural India through a collaboration of Tata-Cornell, Agua Clara, and some also on-the-ground support from some NGOs. So to cover that information and to really go into detail of that story, we'd like to invite the Executive Director of Agua Clara Reach to please come and present. May? Thanks.
Thank you. So as Jessica said, I am May Sharif. I am the founder of Agua Clara Reach, which is a nonprofit based in Ithaca that seeks to increase access to safe drinking water on tap globally. So the Agua Clara program actually started as a student-based research program in civil engineering in 2005. That was founded by Dr. Monroe Weber Shirk. And so that program was focused on developing sustainable solutions for drinking water supply in communities that couldn't sustain access to it. So that program came up with about 3 main principles to having long-term drinking water access in a community that is struggling. One of those aspects is that the plants have to be built by community labor using locally available materials. They also have to be operated by the community members in the long run, so it has to be very simple to operate. And it has to be powered by gravity, so we can build it off-grid. So the students were developing these technologies, and in the scientific advancements they were able to make, we were able to take water that looks like this chocolatey milk into water that looks like this for 1/3 of the operational cost of a conventional mechanized plant. So the students were actually they were partnering with an NGO in Honduras to build these systems for real communities. So in 2012, we founded an entity separate from Cornell, though we continued to collaborate with the civil engineering program, and we partnered with the Tata-Cornell Institute. So with very generous funding, we were able to explore opportunities in India and see where we could be most helpful. We explored some villages in Jharkhand, and we were finding water supply systems that looked something like this, where there would be a lowland sanitary well that had source water that was relatively clear. It wasn't that chocolate milk looking water that you would get in Honduras during the rainy season. That water would then be pumped up to an overhead tank, and that water was then gravity fed to households by individual taps. So because we were looking at smaller communities and different quality of water, we had to adapt what we were doing in Honduras, and we came up with a system that looked like this, where we built a water treatment facility on top of what would normally be your overhead storage tank. In there, we built enclosed stacked rapid sand filters. These are filters that in 1/6 of the area of a conventional rapid sand filter can treat the same quality and can produce the same quality of water, and it requires 1/6 as much water to backwash, which is a way of cleaning the filter. Then to disinfect the water, we had a system that is a chemical dose controller. That chemical dose controller can automatically adjust the flow of chemical based on the quantity of water that is flowing that you want to treat. And it can do that without any electronics, sensors, pumps, or things that are likely to fail and hard to replace in a rural village. So we built 4 of those systems in Jharkhand with the help of TCI, serving 2,000 people in total. And TCI was also very helpful in validating the impact of what it is we tried to do. So TCI scholar Shuli Vananja, who you would have seen in the first video that was shown earlier today, she was studying how much time communities would save in not having to collect water. And she found that there was about a 60% reduction in the time households were spending in collecting water from distant sources. And that saved time led to a 20% increase for women in their primary occupation, which often meant agriculture, or it would mean household chores, or, which would include childcare, which has direct health outcomes. So there were several things we learned from the 4 systems that we built in Jharkhand. One, what we were a little surprised to see, and that is that filtration is sometimes overkill for these lowland sanitary wells. The water is actually very clear and they don't need a lot of extra filtration, but what they do need is the disinfection. So we wanted to make a simpler system, and we thought, okay, we can at least use our chemical dosers. We continued to talk to our partners and the operators of the systems, and we learned that another thing that they really wanted to see improved was the modularity, to make it easier to install, kind of make it a plug-and-play sort of system. So what we did was we developed a new hydrodoser, which is in the next generation of our chemical dose controller to disinfect water using chlorine. Another thing we learned was that taste matters. So after Shuli had done the research on the Agua Clara water treatment plants in Jharkhand, she was inspired to go on and continue her research throughout the state on other water supply systems. And she was finding that people's choice in which water source to use was sometimes not related to convenience or even the actual quality of water, but sometimes more so the taste or what was traditionally thought to be a safe drinking water source. So that's really important for us when we disinfect the water. We really want to be careful to not alter the taste of the water too much. And we also want to have good training programs so that people in the community understand when water is really safe, that maybe just because it looks safe doesn't mean that it won't cause waterborne illness. And some interesting things that we learned were that the communities were actually calling each other up to help each other when things would go wrong. So if for some reason they found one of the filters had turned off and they couldn't figure out why, rather than call us or call our partner NGO, they called the operator next door, which was wonderful because they could then solve the problems quickly, they were learning together, and they were empowering each other. So this cross-community collaboration was something we really wanted to capitalize on in our work moving forward. So what we're doing now is we are taking our work to Odisha, and we're doing that because in Odisha, in addition to the pumped water supply systems, there are gravity-based water supply systems, which is what Agua Clara technologies were originally designed for. We're also partnering with Gram Vikas, which they're an NGO that has a long history in water and sanitation. They've built a lot of toilets and a lot of water supply systems. They've tried a lot of water treatment technologies, so they have a lot of knowledge about what works and what doesn't. And so they're helping us expand these hydrodosers into an additional 60 villages in the next couple of years, which of course wouldn't be possible with continued support from TCI. So the way that program is going to work is we're going to train an initial batch of communities in how to build, install, and operate these systems. And then those communities will be the trainers of the next set of communities, and so on. And beyond those 2 years, Gram Vikas is creating a water quality management program where they're going to revisit every water quality system they've done in the past. So that's about 1,200 systems. And that's spanning geographically all of the white area you see in this map. And they're going to be reevaluating all of those old systems for retrofitting and including the hydrodoser to make sure that the water they're supplying is actually safe to drink. So I just want to conclude with a big thank you to TCI for the support that you've given us from the very beginning of our founding and the support you continue to give us to expand into Odisha. We couldn't have the impact that we're having without you, and we're really looking forward to continuing to work together. Thank you.
We're also very excited to see the expansion of these new technologies, and we're very proud of the innovative work that Agua Clara Reach is accomplishing in rural India. So thank you very much for presenting and sharing the updates, Maysoon. Next, we'd like to focus on another way that we are collaborating across campus. And one way that we have gotten the word out about the work that we do is through our graduate internship program. For the last 5 summers, we have sent undergraduate, but mostly graduate students from across campus to partner with different NGO partners or to work in our Delhi office and our project field sites. So that way they can gain in their hands-on experience doing research, but also have an opportunity to learn about why this issue of food security, food systems, and linking agriculture and nutrition is so important. So we are out to get people convinced that we have a good approach, and we also want to make sure that the students at Cornell are getting the opportunity to really learn in a real way, get out of the classroom and engage. So this year, this past summer, we had 3 people working with our team in the Tarina office in Delhi. And so I'd like to invite Sarah, she, and Kira to come up and please share your experiences.
Hello everyone. As Jessica said, we were the 3 graduate summer interns, and before we start our presentation, we just wanted to take some time to introduce ourselves and say what our personal and academic motivations were for taking on this internship. So I'll start. My name's Sarah Cartagena. I'm a second-year Master of Public Administration graduate student at the Cornell Institute for Public Affairs. And my reasons for applying for the TCI Tarina graduate summer internship were, first off, working with TCI that combines research and on-ground work, and also being able to be a part of an applied process from beginning to end, being able to collect data, analyze it, and then ultimately produce a presentation and report from that data was really important to me, and it was something that TCI was able to offer.
Hello everyone, my name is Qi Liu. I'm the second-year master student at the Applied Economics and Management at Dyson School. My concentration is the development economics, which also led to my motivation for applying this internship. Aside from that, I'm really interested in the development issues, especially in India. That's why I applied this internship. Aside that, I realized that it would be a very great study opportunity to practice what I learned from the college into the field and see how the development project can be implemented on the ground. Next,
Hi, my name is Kira Crowley, and I'm actually a research support specialist here at TCI, but I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to participate in this graduate student internship. I was really excited when this opportunity came up because I've been really interested in the promotion of sustainable practices that improve food security and resilience among smallholder farmers. It's been an interest of mine for a long time, and this was an opportunity to see how a project that is implementing this is happening on the ground. So just to give you a quick overview of our presentation, I'll talk a little bit about the objective of our internship, show you where we were working, and also give you a timeline of how our time was spent in India, and then we'll each talk a little bit about the projects that we were involved with. So first of all, to talk about the objective of our internship, we were really there to document the successes and challenges in implementing 3 of TCI Tarina's interventions. So the promotion of kitchen gardens, small ruminants, and crop diversification. And these interventions, the main goal of all of these interventions is to reduce malnutrition in India. And each of us was paired with a colleague at the TCI office in Delhi to focus on one of these interventions. So this is where we were doing our fieldwork this summer in Munger district in Bihar and in Kalahandi district in Orissa. And this is where TCI partners are working on the implementation of these interventions. So now I'm going to hand it to Chi to tell you about how our time was divided.
Yeah, we all together spent 6 weeks in India. The first week, we worked in the Delhi office, familiar with ourselves with the field work. The second 2 weeks, we went to the field, conducted like informant interviews, focus group discussion, and the transect work. And the last 3 weeks, we Warback daily office and transcribing, analyze our data, prepare the presentation, and writing the press documentation, the report work. Next, we three would talk about each of our field experience in the 3 interventions.
So my specific intervention was small ruminants, specifically goat rearing, the promotion of goat rearing as evident in all the photos. And so my counterpart Naveen and I focused on process documenting the different activities that Tarina and the partners BIF and CARE were implementing in the 2 districts. And some examples of the activities that they were implementing was fodder cultivation, as seen above, the distribution of black Bengal bucks, castration of young bucks, and a funny story about that picture that was taken right before I witnessed my first castration of a young buck in the very first village that I visited. So it was a little scarring, but informative. And yeah, so like while we were conducting this process documentation, we gained a lot of information about what was going on the ground. And one of the things that I took away from it was that it was very important, the dynamics that the goat rearers have in the community. It really influences how the activities and the different interventions are taken. And some more pictures. Yeah, so overall, in addition to learning about goat rearing and in addition to learning about my love of small, cute goats, I also learned that conducting field work is very time-consuming and very mentally and physically exhausting. Yeah, it is very fun and rewarding, especially when you're able to see the effects that the projects have on local communities. Specifically, the TCI Tarina internship for me was very transformative because it made me rekindle my passion for working with rural communities, and it inspired me to apply for a Fulbright scholarship to conduct research on the effects of climate change on rural households in Mexico. So overall, I learned a lot, not just about goat rearing and rural India, but a lot about myself and what I'm actually passionate about. Next, I'll pass it on to Chi to talk about kitchen gardens.
Yeah, I work on the intervention of the kitchen garden. The objective of the kitchen garden by Tarina is to decrease the seasonal food diversity by increasing the year-round food availability of the vegetables and the fruits by promoting the kitchen garden. Also encourage people to increase the consumption of this food. After the field work and analysis work, we found that input deliver and the trainings has been greatly implemented on the ground. But however, the water scarcity has been the major constraint for the sustainability of the development of the kitchen garden. Aside from kitchen garden, I want to talk a lot about myself. Here are the photos. I work in India, and first I really grateful and appreciate these opportunities by the TCI, and it was a really great opportunity to put what I learned from the college into the field. And before this internship, I just finished my field work in China for my thesis research. The similarities and the difference conducting the field work in the different developing countries really interested me and opened up my mind and give me a more diversified the vision towards the development economics, not just confined in my native country, not just in my native language. Aside from that, this internship was a very important experience for me to strengthen my decision to apply for the PhD after graduation. Next, I would pass to Kira.
So I was working on the crop diversification project, and we were really the crop diversification intervention aims to improve nutrition by increasing diet diversity and by increasing incomes. And during our time in the field, my partner Ruchira and I found that the farmers were, in fact, planting the pulse and vegetable seeds that they had received from this intervention, and some of them did say that their diets were more diverse now after being involved with this intervention. However, there were challenges that we saw in the intervention, including the adoption of recommended practices was somewhat lagging. And one reason for the lack of adoption among farmers has been that partners have struggled to find people who are willing to spend time in the villages to go and do these trainings. And so farmers were not always receiving trainings in all of the recommended practices. And so there's many challenges like this, and challenges like this are hard to solve, but seeing these challenges has reignited my interest in developing new mechanisms for helping farmers to implement more sustainable practices and for supporting knowledge sharing between farmers. And this interest is what I've decided I want to focus on for a PhD. So this experience for me, like for Chi, has inspired me to pursue a PhD in this area and to do more research in India. And in addition to inspiring me to apply for a PhD, it was just a great experience being in the field and doing field work again. I've done field work before in China and South Africa, but it's been a few years, and it was great to get back in there and have these experiences with farmers and see what a project like this is really doing on the ground. So yeah, there's nothing more inspiring than speaking to the farmers that these projects are trying to help. So this is our group in our free time. So this is us three, and then Nikita in the middle was Chi's partner, and Ruchira on the side was my partner. They work at the TCI office in Delhi, and then Naveen in that picture was Sarah's partner. So we had fun together, and this is all of us at the office in Delhi. So yeah, I'd like to thank TCI for this wonderful opportunity. I think all of us feel very grateful, and thank you.
Alrighty. So now we're going to hear from my colleague Shub Swain, who is currently in Orissa. So we're going to Zoom him in, and hopefully we will have no problems with connecting on the internet at all.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to join you on this big day from one of the states in India where TCI is really impacting on the real lives of the people. I'm just trying to share my screen. So I'm thrilled to talk about the work of TCI, even if it is at 3 a.m. in the morning. So TCI's flagship program, TARINA, which is an acronym for Technical Assistance and Research in Nutrition and Agriculture, aims to achieve a better nutrition-sensitive food system through its three objectives. First, syncing the on-ground agriculture-related works and programs with nutritional outcomes. Second, informing the policies for better affordability and availability of the diversified food. Third, building the leadership in the food, nutrition, and agriculture by improving the capacity of the local experts. So TARINA is being implemented in three critical states of India. One is Bihar, second is Odisha, the state I am talking from right now, and Uttar Pradesh. TARINA brings the credible experts from the field of research, program implementation, and the strategic development across the globe. With this excellent capacity of the TARINA consortium partners, TARINA is a unique program that loops the evidence, the program implementation, and the policy advocacy. And Tarina has many channels to feed in each component of this loop. We just completed our third year of our action, and we recently launched the Tarina report and one-pager of infographics that compiles the success story for the last 3 years. I will request you to read those documents. They are full of happy colors, both literally and metaphorically. You will definitely enjoy reading these reports. So today I will be talking largely on some of the key success stories from these documents. So one of the program intervention, one of the program objective is to diversify the food production at the ground level. And I'm proud to say in last 3 years, Tarina has able to double the number of farmers, those who have adopted the diversified cropping pattern in its intervention districts. Culture, geography, and climate-specific input supports, trainings have really kind of caused to bring this success on ground. Livestock is not only adds or enriches the food diversity, but also it empowers the food system by bringing through the income pathway. So Tarina has been making changes in the lives of the farmers, those who are engaged in livestock, through improved animal health services, the trainings, strengthening the value chains, and engaging the innovative lab technologies. I must share with you that Tarina is one of the very few programs in India that introduces the artificial insemination to improve the breed of the goats. And that has been gaining the success from its very beginning. Similarly, with the innovative training and the technical supports, Tarina has been able to increase the adoption of smart kitchen gardens in its villages almost to the 1/3 of the population. Tarina's double-layered social and behavioral change communication strategy is not only impacts the community level landscape, but also the individual behavior for better nutritional outcomes. The engendered intervention called the Nutrition Gender Toolkit is an exciting approach, not only to effectively reach out not only to the women, but also men, which is very important when you talk about gender and nutrition on the ground. It really feels good to see how the effort of Tarina in linking up of the innovative technologies with these women farmers reduces the drudgery and frees up the time. It not only reduces the drudgery, but also empowers the women collective by improving the income pathway. And the TCI is also engaged in bringing out the thriving research you must be hearing today, or you will be hearing the next. And I'm not going to steal the thunder from the speakers. And if you are missing some of the researchers here to listen, the report features them very explicitly. So you should go ahead and read those reports. Tarina's Center of Excellence, which is popularly known as the COE, is a thriving melting pot of the young multidisciplinary researchers from Cornell and beyond. COE is busy in publishing a lot of research projects that influences the policy and informs the policy too. So by utilizing the COE's research, the program learnings, Tarina is continuously engaged with the policymakers of India in the domain of food, nutrition, and agriculture to influence the policies and at different levels, national, state, and also at district levels. COE is also building the capacity of many key players, starting from the grassroots level NGO workers to the program designers at various levels. And these are the programs really gaining the importance and the popularity on the ground. Recently, Tarina has also attracted the lenses of the news media from different levels. So all these reasons, innovations, and determination visibly translate to warm, wide smile on the ground, and this is the beginning of the smiles. So thank you very much.
All right, so next up, we're going to learn about the book. So we'll dive in. Yes, this goes here.
Okay, so hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Anaka Iyer, and I'm a postdoctoral associate who's had the great pleasure to work with TCI for the last 2 years. Shubha is generally a very hard person to follow in a presentation because he's so good. But anyway, I'm going to try. So let me just start by saying that I think it's first really important for me to acknowledge that this book that we're coming out with, Professor referred to it as Rising Food Systems for India, but now we've changed the name to Transforming Food Systems for a Rising India. And my co-authors have been really key. This is Professor Matthew and Andalib in making this book actually happen. It's been hours of sweat and tears and arguments and negotiations that have brought this entire book together. And we're really excited that it's out in press. I've been given the hard task of telling you in 5 minutes what this entire book that we've been working for 1.5 years is about. But I'm sure next year, as Professor said, there's going to be a wonderful book reception and you'll hear more about it. But let me try and summarize what I think are some of the most interesting things in our book. So key to the goal of our book is to envision a robust food system for the future. And this requires us to assume what this would look like. And we assume it to have a nutrition-secure population where people have the capability and opportunity to access balanced and affordable healthy diets and whose health outcomes do not reflect their lack of ability to access these diets. Right? So here at TCI, we're working on very many current issues. This is the first time we're sort of pivoting some of these issues towards the future in our book. So we see the threats to the future food security. We see them to be the rapidly increasing populations. Now, the thing about rapidly increasing populations is that the challenge is twofold. In India, we have increasing numbers of people, and feeding them is going to be a huge challenge. But on the other hand, we also have increasing income per capita, and that means they're going to demand more diversified nutrients. So these are going to be our two challenges. These rising populations are now going to live in urban areas, and one of the key challenges for policymakers will be how to think about feeding urban populations. How do you move vast amounts of food from rural areas to urban areas and ensure that they are still food secure across the country? Another big thing that we find in our book is rising regional inequalities. Policymakers need to think long and hard about how to make the current lagging states catch up with the rapidly transforming states in our country in order to ensure a more equitable food system. In terms of the nutritional challenge for the future, while we are making progress here at TCI at tackling undernutrition, it's going to be obesity and non-communicable diseases in the future. Right now, we are a 20% obese population, and that challenge is a non-trivial challenge for policymakers of the future. And finally, in our book, we think that one of the major challenges for the future is going to be climate change. And climate change is going to really affect food security within the country. So keeping all these challenges in mind, we propose a food systems approach. And the reason why our approach is really interesting is because most of the other approaches that look at agricultural production or economic growth or better nutrition have been sort of unidimensional. They don't consider the spillover effects of interventions on the other domains that they're affecting. And this is what we seek to change through our book, right? In our book, we conceptualize these interlinkages, and we basically discuss methods and the evidence surrounding these methods on how different interventions can impact these three domains. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'll just give you a small example of what I mean by this. So let's start with the example on climate change. We know that climate change is going to provide a huge threat for our food systems in the future. So in our book, we address this through various categories. In the agriculture portions of the book, we look at the role of technologies, and we look at what kind of technologies will help us in order to create more climate-sensitive food systems, right? In terms of health, we look at what are the implications for micronutrient deficiencies when food systems, when climate change impacts the availability of proteins and micronutrients, and we discuss the role of technologies such as biofortification in overcoming some of these challenges. In terms of economic growth, the one thing that we envision is how food supply chains can be used, or rather they can be made efficient in order to reduce food loss that is going to come from these climate change threats. Similarly, when it comes to increased populations, like I mentioned before, we're going to need to feed more populations. We talk about how agriculture systems need to diversify and how can they increase their productivity. And we also discuss the technologies that are needed for this. The other thing that we discuss is that it doesn't matter that we have increased populations. If we don't know how to employ them, this is going to be a particular problem for us. And finally, we look at the implications of increasing population on non-communicable diseases, and how can we tackle these things using health technologies. So this is kind of broadly what we look at and how we tackle it through all the chapters in our book. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annika. So I guess the message there is stay tuned, because in 2019 we're going to have a book launch party and you'll learn much more greater detail about the book. So to round us out for the day, we'd like to invite Dr. Mark Constas, one of the Tata-Cornell faculty fellows. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you. I will keep my comments brief, both to keep us on track with respect to time and also to not cause any delay in allowing us to begin the reception. I think this room is perhaps not, I don't feel guilty about that. This is not a room where people are profoundly food insecure, so I think we can withhold on that. So I only feel vaguely guilty about it, as people's stomachs may be grumbling. Before beginning, I would like to place my comments in context, and actually two contexts. First, like other presentations, my comments are situated, concerns how in the context of TCI and how we pursue our mission, and how Tarina as a project endeavors to operationalize its goals, understand the dynamics needed to promote a nutrition-sensitive food system in India and actually more broadly, which brings me to my second context. The second context is broader, and this concerns how TCI as a whole has positioned itself strategically at the frontier of innovation, not just for work in India, but also for a broader agenda, for work that's evidence-based and aims at, around international development that takes place at the intersection of agriculture, food systems, and nutrition. And this actually is going back to a point which Prabhu mentioned at the outset, that the potential of scaling up the kind of work we do here. There really are broader implications for this work. Now to my talk, with a focus on the effort to build and consolidate evidence using the work of Tarina as a point of reference, I would like to highlight three challenges to which TCI and Tarina have developed and implemented effective responses. So the first challenge concerns food system complexity and a TCI strategy. And here I'll just mention briefly how the work of TCI and Tarina in general, in particular, are sensitive to policy inputs and impacts. And this echoes much of what's already been said and evidenced in some of the talks. Secondly, I want to talk about the importance of policy-oriented partnerships. And for the second challenge, talk about food systems metrics and indicators for evidence. And here, talk about the multidimensional complexity of food systems, which was just noted. And then also, when talking about food systems metrics, talk about how it's applied to various food system settings in our work. And then finally, talk about policy-relevant evidence, talk about how TCI works very closely on the problems of dissemination and direct engagement. First, to speak about food systems complexity and how the complexity of food systems can be modeled. Now, to make you feel either inspired or ill, I'll put up some graphics. So these are common graphics that one sees with food systems models, and they're often inspiring, they're generative, and what we find in a lot of these models, and I think the work we're doing within TCI is a departure from this kind of work, is it's graphically rich and empirically poor. And I think the work we're doing here is trying to take some of the basic principles of food systems complexity, such as thinking about vertical integration, cross-scale metrics from households to villages and to larger aggregates, and understanding how those are hierarchically related, and how the work is deeply contextually grounded. In the previous talk, you heard reference made to transect walks, and actually understanding what's going on at the village level to understand the dynamics of food systems. And of course, the work is policy sensitive. I'll make one more point here on the notion of vertical integration. A number of NGOs, donor groups, USAID in particular, has made a strong point about the importance of vertical integration, which means we understand what's going on at the level of soils, understanding what's going on in cropping practices, going up to harvesting, post-harvest food handling, all the way up to business enterprise solutions. And then finally to thinking about policy imperatives that go along with that. That work is that language and that logic is often more rhetorical than it is data-based. And TCI, I think proudly we can say we're actually making inroads in that. The work, we're able to do this work because of collaborative data collection planning. In the inconvenient or the not so awkward moment waiting for Shub, the question was asked about collaborations, and that's a really important part of our work. So that's kind of the broad contours, thinking conceptually about how food systems complexity works. But for the work we do within Tarina is at the outset, there was a very well-developed conceptual model and a theory of change that drives the work, and it provides a logic for interventions, programming, really identifying indicators and metrics so that work becomes not just conceptually inspiring, but empirically tractable as well. And that leads us into thinking about evidence-based policies that can lead to nutrition-sensitive food systems and more affordable as well. So now getting down to the core of what we do, which is important for monitoring evaluation, thinking about food systems metrics. So how do we then take the complexity going from graphics, which are highly complex, thinking about specific indicators? We begin at the base thinking about agroecological context, contemplating social mechanisms, as was referenced in Pael's talk, and which then leads into behavior change models, understanding household dynamics, both inter and intra-household, thinking about village and district level dynamics, and then the policy that affects those things, and working on a nutrition focus. Here I have a map, which you've seen the map of where we're collecting our data before, but this is by, very deliberately, a soil map, because we think about what the soil composition is as a base condition. And we work from that level and come all the way up to the top, thinking about policy issues as well. Finally, my last challenge I'd like to think about is the policy relevant evidence. If you take some time and look at the TCI website, you'll see that there are fact sheets. There's a very deliberate effort to disseminate the work that's being done. There are focused policy briefs, and there's direct engagement. Most noticeably, and now an important historical footnote, in its inaugural event, TCI held a policy forum in New Delhi. It continues to hold joint policy forums, for instance, with IFPRI, and it's internationally engaged doing work with the FAO and with other organizations as well. So, in my concluding comments, I'm going to make a few more points here and just pose some questions to talk about how we're responding to those. Why is the work of TCI oriented toward policy? Firstly, to better understand how policy has and can impact nutrition. Secondly, to identify and enable solutions that are scalable through policy mechanisms. Second question, what does TCI do to ensure a productive policy connection? Focus metrics, analytics, and evidence on policy informs and maintains vital partnerships. Thirdly, how is TCI working to institutionalize evidence-based policy through intensive and focused dissemination and direct engagement with policy audiences? In close, I'd like to reiterate how TCI and Tarina represent an innovative approach to generating evidence to help promote a more nutritious and affordable food system. And I'd also like to point out that the work that you've heard today from postdoctoral fellows, from graduate students, from undergraduates, TCI fellows, and associates are responding directly to this challenge and using their work to help build a better connection between the research evidence and the policy. And I'll conclude there. So thank you. Thanks.
We really do appreciate you all joining us today for our big 5th anniversary celebratory event. It's it's something that we're very proud of the work that we're doing here, and we're very appreciative of the opportunity to share it with you. To all of the speakers, our hardworking students, the people who couldn't join us today but have been featured in our videos, to the photographers, the NGO partners, the staff in India, and also the people that we talk to and learn from who live in these villages, who work for these NGOs, our heartfelt thanks goes out to each and every one of you. So with that, I just want to thank you again for joining us, and you are adjourned to the reception. Please join us.